Marriage isn't always fireworks, I knew that. But no one warns you when it becomes a calendar alert. Only you remember. 7 years of marriage, 5 forgotten anniversaries. This one felt different. Not louder, not angrier, just emptier. I sat at the dinner table in our loft apartment alone with 2 empty wine glasses and a perfectly roasted duck I marinated for hours. Ethan's favorite, though now I wonder if I only thought it was. I glanced at the time, 9:37 p.m. No calls, no messages, not even a lie. He didn't forget the pitch meeting this morning, didn't forget to Venmo his trainer, didn't forget to repost that stupid meme about simp husbands. But he forgot me, again. The first time he brought home sushi and swore he'd make it up to me. The second he blamed a client emergency. The third he didn't notice until the flowers I ordered for myself arrived. The fourth I didn't even remind him. And now, the fifth I didn't expect him to remember. But some tiny part of me, the girl who still wanted to be held on hard days, hoped maybe, just maybe, he'd say something. He didn't. The apartment door unlocked at 10:22 p.m. He walked in, smelling of whiskey and lemon cologne, the one I never liked. Tossed his keys on the counter, looked at the food, and said, "Whoa, you cooked." "Looks great. What's the occasion?" I smiled. I actually smiled. Because in that moment, I wasn't angry. I was done. "It's just duck," I said, pouring myself a second glass of wine. "Eat or don't. I'm not hungry anymore." He shrugged, grabbed a beer, sat on the couch. I excused myself, walked into the bedroom, and sat at the desk where I'd left my laptop open, just for him. Earlier that day, I moved 42% of my voting shares out of our joint portfolio into a trust under my name. Not a rash move, a quiet, precise one. I started drafting it the day I found out about his secret account in the Caymans. Small, regular transactions. To someone labeled simply A. I never asked, never confronted. I just observed. He's just stressed, my therapist once said. Men disconnect when they feel insecure around powerful women. No, Susan. Men cheat when they're cowards, and powerful women don't need to mother them into basic decency. I looked in the mirror, hair neat, makeup faded but still intact. This was the face of a woman who once believed love could fix broken people. Now I believe in fixing myself first and making sure no one ever breaks me again. Before bed, I returned to the kitchen. Half the duck was gone, no dishes done. He was already scrolling TikTok, laughing at something dumb. He looked up and said, "Thanks, babe. This was really good." You didn't say what the occasion was. I leaned against the doorframe and said, "Nothing special, just a quiet reminder of what I used to hope for." He blinked, confused. I smiled again, but this time it wasn't polite. It was surgical. "Good night, Ethan." I turned, closed the door, locked it, then opened a folder named Contingency Phase 1. People ask what changed. It wasn't one big moment. It was 1,000 small ones. But the 5th forgotten anniversary. That's when I stopped remembering him and started remembering myself. It wasn't the messages that broke me. It was the quiet realization that I'd been optional. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was sad, but because for the first time in a long time I was fully awake. It was like the fog of exhaustion, denial, and emotional starvation had lifted, and I could see everything crystal clear. I opened my laptop and pulled up Ethan's offshore account, the one he thought I didn't know about. Earhodes 5 BTC, linked to a shell company in the Caymans. Transactions discreet and regular, $4,000 to $6,000 a month. All going to one recipient at Angelbeck. I actually laughed. Not A for Amanda or Alice, A for Angel. It took me 10 minutes to find her. Instagram, LinkedIn, a dead podcast. Angela Beck, 27, former marketing coordinator, blonde balayage, just enough filters to look expensive. She quoted female empowerment memes but still spelled entrepreneur wrong. I found photos of her sipping lattes with Ethan blurred in the background. Caption always inspired by brilliant minds. Ethan's comment, "You bring the light, I bring the fire." No, Ethan, I brought the capital. You brought the ego. But I didn't rage, didn't throw a wine glass, didn't scream. I just opened another folder, preliminary risk map. Angela Beck, because I'd suspected there was someone. This just confirmed it. And confirmation was power. That's the thing no one teaches women. We're told to trust our gut, but never how to follow it to the end. To gather receipts, document timelines, prepare not for closure, but for a case. And mine, it was airtight. Angela wasn't just a mistress. She was trying to become Ethan's co-founder. They'd been drafting a startup pitch nearly identical to my company's IP, a new name, Phoenix Biotech. Poetic, rising from the ashes, but they were stealing my fire to do it. They removed me from the founding deck, copied my treatment protocols, filed provisional patents listing Ethan as inventor. He didn't just cheat, he duplicated me, and tried to erase the original. But he slipped. The pitch deck, he reused my template. My metadata was still embedded. My name, my timestamp, my copyright. That file legally was mine, so I downloaded it, archived everything, then saved a new version into a folder called Phoenix Lawsuit, Draft 1. That night, he sat across from me at dinner, scrolling, laughing, ordering sushi, telling me his day was long and boring. I watched him chew eyes' dull fingers, moving like none of this mattered. And I realized he never saw me as a partner, only as a platform. He used my credit, my ideas, my silence. And now he wanted to upgrade to someone newer, easier to mold, easier to dismiss. I wasn't heartbroken, I was insulted. That was the night I began phase 2. I wasn't going to confront him. I was going to let him believe he was winning right up until the moment I pulled the entire floor out from under him. Some women cry when they're betrayed. Some write poems. I draft contracts. I didn't need to confront Ethan. Men like him don't respond to confrontation. They see it as noise. What they fear is silence. So I gave him exactly that. For the next few weeks, I pretended to be tired, distant but not suspicious. I let dishes sit in the sink, missed calls from my board, showed up to work late looking pale. Ethan thought I was unraveling. What I was doing was repositioning. I quietly moved all my remaining personal assets into a revocable living trust. Named myself sole trustee, appointed a successor trustee in another state, someone I trust implicitly, someone Ethan has never even heard of. Then I called my personal attorney, Maya, who also happens to be a beast in corporate law. We're drafting a post-nup, I told her. He won't know that's what it is, but I'll get the signature. She smiled. Is he cheating? I smiled back. He's replicating. The agreement was brilliant. On paper, it looked like a standard financial restructuring to protect our personal assets before an upcoming investment round. Nothing unusual. In reality, it transferred all shared corporate rights and assets into a protected holding company owned entirely by me. He'd still think he was co-owner, but legally he'd be a contracted advisor. No equity, no veto rights, no recourse. It took Maya and me 2 days to finalize the documents. I printed them on heavyweight stock, gold clip, a handwritten note on top, just some paperwork to streamline things for the Series B round. Let's talk over dinner. I left it in his office. He signed it that night. Didn't ask a single question. He was too busy packing for a business trip in LA, with Angela, of course. While he was gone, I went to our server room, removed his biometric access, changed the admin passwords, revoked his VPN credentials. By the time his plane landed, Ethan no longer had access to the company he thought he still half-owned. But that wasn't the end. Not yet. I needed him to feel the illusion of power a little longer, just enough for him to do what he always does, take too much. So I left him a cookie, not the edible kind, a digital breadcrumb. A fake licensing draft linked to a dummy shell company. It looked like an opportunity to monetize our IP before Series B under his name. It was bait, designed to tempt him into acting unilaterally. If he bit, it'd be corporate fraud with a digital trail, straight to his devices. He opened it 2 days later, edited it, tried forwarding it to Angel Beck. Attached a message, "We'll make this official soon. Don't tell Liv yet. She's exhausted lately." What he didn't know, he was sending it to my encrypted trap inbox. I printed the email, dated, timestamped, filed it under a folder labeled Ethan Rhodes Exit Strategy Complete. That night we had dinner together. I made steak, mashed potatoes. 2 glasses of wine. He smiled at me across the table like he still had the upper hand. "You're doing better," he said. "I'm proud of you." I raised my glass and smiled back. You have no idea. He thought I was softening. What I was really doing was sharpening. Ethan came back from LA on a Sunday night suitcase, in one hand, ego in the other. He smelled like overconfidence and hotel cologne, the kind men use when they're trying to feel 25 again. "Amazing trip," he said, kissing my cheek, absently. Stuff's really starting to line up. I smiled small, not the smile he used to know the one that meant I was in love. This one meant you have no idea what's already been signed behind your back. That night, he didn't ask about the board meeting scheduled for Thursday. He just clicked yes on the calendar invite. Subject quarterly IP review plus strategic compliance update. He probably thought it was corporate fluff, another chance to zone out. He didn't realize it was his exit interview. Over the next 3 days, I let him live his fantasy. I played the tired wife, the quietly healing partner. I made him smoothies again, laughed at his jokes, touched his arm when he mentioned big news coming soon, and every night I filed more documents into a folder labeled 10:00 a.m. public. Investor statements, compliance logs, metadata audits, Angela's emails, all of it, timed, dated, lethal. He was giddy. I watched him strut around the house like a man who finally won. Phone calls with Angela, whispered late-night Zooms, typing fast and sloppy. He wasn't building a company, he was staging a coup. What he didn't know, I was letting him. Because a plan only collapses when the last stone is pulled, and I was the one holding the foundation. The day before the board meeting, he poured 2 glasses of wine. He was glowing in that smug, self-congratulatory way. "You're going to be so proud of me, Liv. We're almost there." I sipped mine slowly, looked him dead in the eye. I already am. That night, I opened my laptop and ran a final check. All documents were routed, time-stamped, legally notarized. Ethan's last email, forwarded to Angela, read, "Don't tell Liv yet, she's been spacey lately. Once we flip the IP, I'll handle the board." The subject line, UI rights transfer, draft V2. I didn't need to add anything. His words were the rope. All I did was provide the ceiling beam. I closed the laptop, turned off the light, laid down next to the man who thought he had outsmarted me. And in that darkness, I whispered just loud enough for myself to hear, "Tomorrow I bury you, and I do it in heels." Some battles aren't won with swords. They're won with files, signed, sealed, scheduled for 10 sooner a.m. I arrived at the boardroom 15 minutes early, not because I was nervous, because I wanted the quiet. There's something sacred about stillness before destruction, like standing on a frozen lake and knowing you're the only one who hears the crack forming under someone else's feet. The room slowly filled. 5 board members, 2 legal observers, 3 silent investors on Zoom. 1 chair left open at the far end of the table. Ethan's, he texted at 9:57. Running 5 mins late saved me a seat. I didn't respond. We'd already saved him a seat, just not the kind he imagined. 10:03 a.m. he walked in. Chinos, casual button-up. Hair messy in that I work in tech way. Angela had probably picked it out. He thought it made him look visionary. "Hey everyone," he grinned, sliding into the seat beside mine. "Let's do this." He leaned in and whispered, "You look amazing, by the way. Killing it." I smiled. "You will too, soon." The General Counsel opened the meeting. Today's agenda: Q2 compliance review and formal IP consolidation acknowledgement. Ethan half listened, scrolling his phone under the table. I nodded for the screen to be shared. The first slide appeared: intellectual property, audit trail overview, bullet points, timestamps, every single unauthorized login to our company, server traced to Ethan's credentials. One of the board members, Victoria, frowned. "Wait, these breaches go back 3 months. I nodded, exactly when Phoenix Biotech's first investor deck was drafted. Next slide. Angela's email sent via Ethan's personal account. "Once Liv's fully out, we'll poach half the dev team. She won't even notice." Silence. Ethan blinked. "Whoa, okay, that's out of context." Slide 3, the licensing agreement. Metadata intact, his digital signature. Attempted transfer of our IP to a foreign shell company. Unauthorized, illegal, traceable. The counsel turned to Ethan. Mr. Rhodes, can you confirm whether this document was drafted with your knowledge and intent? He opened his mouth, closed it. It was exploratory. I leaned forward, calm, clear. You signed it, Ethan? You forwarded it. You concealed it. And most importantly, you forgot I built the company whose name you tried to erase. He turned to me, his face no longer smug, just pale. Liv, we can talk about this privately. I shook my head. You chose to act publicly? You thought no one would see. But I did, and now so does everyone else. Final slide. Revised corporate structure, board approved, legally binding, ownership Olivia Whitmore. 100% controlling interest, Ethan Rhodes removed. Retroactively effective 1 month prior. The chairperson cleared her throat. Mr. Rhodes, your advisory role is hereby terminated. You'll receive written notice and legal correspondence within the hour. Ethan didn't move. Everyone else did. Laptops closed, papers shuffled. No one looked at him. He was already a ghost. I stood, gathered my folders, thanked the room, walked past him. As I reached the door, I paused. Oh, and Ethan. He looked up, still clinging to whatever pride he had left. Happy anniversary. And then I walked out. When you take down a man who thought he owned you, he doesn't collapse immediately. He crumbles in pieces and each one tries to crawl back. 2 hours after the board meeting, Ethan emailed me. Subject line: This isn't you. I didn't open it. He followed with a text. We need to talk, not about business, about us. There was no us left to talk about. He killed it with every lie, every copied file, every whispered plan I wasn't supposed to hear. But men like Ethan never think they actually lose. They believe they're just misunderstood. By that evening, 2 investors had called me privately. We always had our doubts, one said. Glad to know you're the real architect. Angela's father pulled out of Phoenix Biotech the next morning. A quiet withdrawal. No statement, no questions. By Friday, the Phoenix website was offline, the LLC status dissolved. And Ethan, he tried damage control, tried calling old friends, board members, even my assistant. He made a post on LinkedIn, some vague, condescending update about restructuring opportunities and redefining legacy. The comments were polite. The silence behind them was deafening. I didn't respond. I didn't speak his name, because I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. That weekend, I drove to the coast. Just me. No driver, no board calls, no calendar pings. I walked the beach barefoot, carrying a single folder with me, not filled with contracts or reports, but with printed photos. Old ones. Me and Ethan before the bitterness. Me at 22 pitching our prototype. Me crying in the parking lot after our first failed investment round. And one photo of me sitting alone on our anniversary wine glass, in hand staring at a cold duck on a porcelain plate. I stood by the shore, watched the tide, and I let them go. Page by page, I dropped them into the sea. Not to erase the past, but to stop letting it write me. You don't win by making them bleed. You win by making them irrelevant. That Monday, I entered the office to a standing ovation from my staff. Not because I destroyed Ethan, but because they saw who really built the company they believed in. One of my engineers handed me a gift, a simple notebook. On the cover, Phase 1 was survival. Phase 2 is empire. And I smiled, because I knew exactly how to begin. I didn't destroy Ethan to punish him. I removed him, to rebuild without rot. In the weeks after the board meeting, Ethan vanished from the professional world like smoke in the wind. Phoenix Biotech was dissolved in under 10 days. Angela's father withdrew funding quietly, citing internal discrepancies. The patents Ethan tried to file, all legally invalid due to metadata ownership tied to my name. And the draft licensing agreement he forwarded to her, it was ruled attempted fraud. I didn't push for criminal charges, though I had grounds. Instead, I negotiated a private settlement. Ethan surrendered his remaining stake in my company, any future claim to derivative technologies, a binding gag order on all parties, and a liquidation of joint assets resulting in a payout that amounted to less than a junior engineer's quarterly bonus. He thought he was clever. He walked away, thinking he'd been let off the hook. What he didn't realize, that was the hook. He didn't just lose the company. He lost the one thing he valued more: credibility. People in our industry don't talk about these things publicly, but they remember. They remember who gets removed quietly, who suddenly isn't at conferences, whose startup disappears overnight with no press release. They remember the silence. Ethan started consulting under a fake LLC 6 months later. I let him, but investors talk, recruiters talk. His name is on a soft blacklist no one will ever admit exists. He's not in prison. He's in exile. And me, I started over, but not from scratch, from wisdom. I restructured the company under a new brand widow protocol. It stood for women in data ownership worldwide, but I knew what it also meant. I brought in founders like me, women who had been cut out, talked over, rewritten. We didn't shout, we designed. We launched an initiative that helps women founders retain legal ownership of their IP, even in co-led startups. It wasn't just revenge, it was replication prevention. I also left our old apartment. It had too many ghosts, too many shadows, that looked like trust, but never were. I bought a smaller place downtown, cozy, no marble, just books, quiet, and a window that faces sunrise instead of memory. One night I got a package, no name, no return address. Inside a framed photo of me and Ethan from year one. Tucked behind it, a note. You didn't have to erase me. I didn't respond. Because I didn't erase him. He erased himself. Legacy, I learned, is not about what you leave behind. It's about what survives after you walk away. So I made sure mine wasn't built on guilt or grief or rage, but on truth, on contracts with clean lines, and voices that no one could mute again. He tried to steal my future, so I wrote one he could never be part of. I never wrote a will because I thought I'd die. I wrote one because I finally knew what was mine. The media kept asking if I had advice for women going through the same thing. I didn't answer, not because I had none, but because the real advice doesn't fit into sound bites or blog titles like 10 Ways to Reclaim Your Power. So instead, I wrote something else, a document I called The Will, not for lawyers, not for Ethan, but for her. For the next woman, standing at her kitchen counter with a half-set dinner table, waiting for someone who keeps forgetting she matters. To whom he forgot you're not crazy, you're not dramatic, you're not too much. He forgot your anniversary, not because he's forgetful, but because he doesn't think it matters. He jokes about strong women because he's terrified of one. And when you try to make it work, when you twist yourself into silence, into softness, he sees accommodation, not love. Stop folding. If he makes you question your instincts, your intelligence, your right to be heard, you're not being gaslit. You're being studied by someone trying to find your off switch. Unplug yourself, keep your records, back up your hard drives, read the contracts, have your own bank account. Build your name on paper, not on promises. And if you feel guilty for thinking about leaving, that's not a sign of weakness. That's you waking up. He will say, you've changed. Say thank you. He will say, we used to be so good. Ask when. He will say, you're walking away from everything we built. Say no. I'm taking it back. You don't owe him a war. You don't need to destroy him. You just need to disappear from his narrative and write your own. Silently, legally, permanently. Signed, the woman who once sat exactly where you are, but now I own the table. I sealed the letter and placed it in a drawer in my new office. No one else has seen it, but I know someone will, one day. And when she does, I hope she understands. This wasn't a will for when I die. It was a declaration of what I refuse to let die in me again. My memory, my name, my voice, my power. And the choice always to walk away without begging to be remembered.